Hello and welcome to Meet the Mentor with Vinny here. This is our first music Meet the Mentor event, so super excited to be kicking things off here. Um, I'm Charles. I'm talking. I'll introduce myself real quick, and then I'll let Vinny introduce himself, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we're going to do today. But I'm Charles. I'm a musician. I'm a teacher, and I am a navigator for Vinny's group here with Mastrius. So Mastrius is going to start doing music essentially, and that's why we're here today to check out Vinny, who's one of the great mentors who will be working with this awesome community. And this awesome community is a big part of why I joined in general as well. Got involved because my mom is an art navigator, and music is a new thing here. And not the greatest painter or anything in the world, but I do enjoy making music. So this community is designed to help support your growth as an artist, and your mentor is going to be here to help you grow, as well as the others in your group too, and myself as the navigator and a member of your group too. And yeah, let's kind of hop into it and let Vinny introduce himself. Yeah, and talk a little bit more about what he does and what he'll do today.
Awesome. Thank you, Charles, for the intro here. And I'm very excited to be part of the first wave of musicians and artists that are part of the music segment here at Mastrius. So super excited to be part of it. And um, I'm a songwriter, top liner, audio engineer, producer, guitarist, kind of, as many musicians can agree, just always wearing many hats depending on the projects and things that you have going on in your musical world. And today I definitely wanted to spend some time, as we discussed, with kind of just understanding how ideas develop for either songs that you're working on for yourself, for other artists, or maybe you're pitching them for sync. For those of you that may not be familiar, sync is when you're getting your music into TV shows or movies or advertisements. And yeah, I mean, as someone who isn't like putting themselves out there as a singer, I've really had to overcome a lot of hurdles in order to get the songs heard and of course like presented in the right way. So I think today I want to spend some time showing that sometimes songs have several iterations before they are even pitched or sent to the next set of ears. So today I'll display some that have like three different sets of versions. And then some that are maybe a little bit more simple. They just have like two iterations. Also, some that the companies that I've worked with either wanted like a female version after hearing a male version or vice versa. So that happens as well. So I think the thing to keep in mind is that if you are not out there as the artist and you're making music and you're doing what I do, which is a little bit more behind the scenes, that you do have to kind of be flexible and have to work with a lot of people to make any project come to life. I'm never on my own island. It's always emailing people and collaborating, whether it's in real time on Zoom, FaceTime, texting, group chains, whatever it is. So yeah, like I said, I want to spend this time today to show ideas that, how they can start from simple ideas to fully producing them and working with other people for different versions. So yeah, excited to do that.
Would it be fair to say you'll be taking it from a yoke to a fully fleshed out song, essentially?
I think so.
Cool. I think that'll be a super fun demo. And before we hop into it too, it's always kind of a weird thing while you're on Zoom, but hi YouTube. So great to see y'all. And yeah, we're really excited about this, and um, yeah, we'll try and keep it really conversational too.
Cool.
And if I have any questions about this, I'll let you know. Before we hop into the demo too, well, we heard a little bit more about what you do. Love to hear about how you got here as well.
Sure. So growing up in the Boston, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Growing up in the music scene here, I played guitar in different bands. Had the pleasure of being able to tour quite a bit with one of the bands called 13 Yards to Victory. Had a lot of fun, like did the musician thing and did the touring, and we had a manager and we did a lot of fun stuff. And years later, as that was going on, the band kind of fizzled out for one reason or another. And I still wanted to be in the music industry, but I was not interested in like forming another band. So for me, it was kind of thinking on my feet quickly and reaching out to people that I met while being in the band and just trying to find other opportunities. And as I was playing in the band I was in, was like kind of like a pop rock, pop punk style music. I learned pretty quickly that like musicians and bands that I knew in my area weren't open to like co-writing or like collaborating. Like something I learned like, and I think it's changed these days, but earlier on, I found that people weren't open to co-writes for that style. And that it was always sort of looked down upon as if like, oh, like we write our own stuff and we don't collaborate with like outside people who aren't in the band with us. So of course, like thinking fast on my feet, I started, and I wouldn't say it was something that I like ever thought I would do, but I started looking into like maybe dance music, maybe pop music, like just different, places where I could still be creative and still write lyrics and melodies and be part of musical projects. But I would certainly say that was like definitely not my plan. When I was, probably like 14 to 18, my plans were to be in a band, like to tour, to travel, to, be successful as a musician. And, things change, and I think that's the fun thing with the music industry is that the same thing with any creative arts. I mean, like there's a lot of ways to tap into it. You never really have to feel stuck. And if something doesn't work, you just kind of open the next door or open the next window, and keep kind of moving forward if it's in you.
Awesome. And it would it be would taking these songs right from the that first phase where maybe you hear a song and you're starting to form the melody, maybe add some lyrics onto it, to being a track where you'll be able to work with an artist or send it off to a sync industry. Would you say that has become a passion essentially, over the years since you've been a touring musician?
Definitely. I really enjoy like the word just slipped my head, like kind of like the variety of projects I can work on. Because it's not my face as like the public, persona of any music project. I get to work in country music, pop music, rock music. I've worked on like some hip hop stuff, a lot of dance music. Um, Pop rock I still get to work in. I think bands are a little bit more open to co-writers these days. So I will say I like the flexibility of the work I do. And I also like that, when you have an idea, it doesn't immediately just die if it doesn't work for an artist. So something kind of early in like the songwriter phase of things post band era was, pitching songs to artists who were looking for songs. And, it would always be different of how I'd get the opportunity. Sometimes they were like friends of friends, or sometimes they were like things I'd see online of different artists looking for songs. And, sometimes the deadlines would be so fast, and I would work with different friends and people I collaborate with. And like we would put so much effort into like submitting songs for an artist. And then like, a week later, you either don't hear back or no, sorry, or, you just sort of that door closes on you. And I think the thing that I enjoy kind of with the flexibility of sync and with just being a songwriter is that, I can sort of move the song. Like if I believe that the song is good enough and still has a shot in the industry, it can just move to a different opportunity. And whether that's another artist down the line or if it ends up in a TV show or movie, awesome. Yeah, because I feel like with an artist project, it's pretty easy for songs to just, oh, it didn't work, and it just kind of gets pushed aside. But yeah, the flexibility that I have and the different projects that I'm able to kind of bounce to on a weekly basis is pretty fun.
That's awesome. And just out of curiosity too, do you find it like sometimes when you're writing these songs, like the genre will change slightly, maybe not, going from like a country to a rap song or anything quite so dramatic, but do you find that sometimes making these changes and really working on the song to bring it to um, into like a recordable state or a playable state changes maybe where it started out as well.
Definitely. And some of the examples today, I can like show some of that as well, where, you know, when you have your lyrics and melodies, right? They're if you're writing over an instrumental, which is normally how I prefer to work. I
Mhm.
do play guitar and I sometimes will write with a guitar, but I definitely prefer to write to tracks and just to kind of remove myself from the music element and just like either put on headphones or just like have the music nice and loud and just try to write over it. It's just my preferred style. And I think that once you have your lyrics and melodies, of course, they may be written over a type of track, and you may be inspired by that tempo or that key of that song, or just
Mhm.
the sonic elements of a track. That when you're done and you have your lyrics on a piece of these days, of course, it's going to be something like Google Docs most of the time, or like a notepad on your phone. But once you have that, it is pretty fun to sometimes get like a different style of track and say like, oh, I wonder what this
Mhm.
top line. So for those of you that don't know, top line is the lyrics and melodies that are set over a track. So if you listen to an instrumental and you write some cool lyrics and melodies, that is called a top line because you're writing on top of a track. So if you take, say if I wrote a song that was pop rock in the key of like, I don't know, E
Mhm.
minor and it's at 90 BPM, if you were to just randomly play a dance track that's at like 125 BPM, the key of A minor or something, it would be fun to sort of see if I can like squeeze those melodies into a
Mhm.
different genre or a different like sonically. The sonic stamps of a track can also sort of mess with you sometimes where you're like, I can't hear this over anything else, and it kind of has to be a rock song or it has to be a pop song. And sometimes the lyrics and melodies are sort of dictated by the track itself, right? Like if the track has some melodic elements that you incorporate into some of your melodies, it may be hard to go to a track that's a little bit you know, like simpler, it might be hard to kind of groove along to it if it doesn't feel like it's like fitting like a glove at all times.
Mhm.
But it is fun to play around with stuff like that. I've definitely taken things that were maybe meant to be dance and like slowed them down. And it almost feels like a remix, sort of like in your head where
Right.
you're like, wow, this feels like a different version, and no one else is gonna hear the first version and they only know the version that eventually gets put out. So yeah, it's always different, and that's I think something that's exciting is that like no two songs have the same story. Like if you were to look
Mhm.
at anything I've worked on, I would guarantee that maybe only like five or six have a similar story if like I've worked with the same artist quite a bit, but for the most part, a lot of them have like very different backgrounds of how we ended up there, why this is the way it is, or so it's a fun process. It's a windy road, but you always sort of get to where you're going eventually.
That's awesome. I'm really excited now to see some of these examples that you were talking about and hear
It's
hear how
always
some of them have
funny to
changed.
backtrack. Yeah, to backtrack is always funny. You're always like, because I mean, I went into the vault for some of
Mhm.
this stuff. I mean, I have stuff that's like
Nice.
almost 10 years old, and I'm like, this started as an idea and then turned into this, so it's it's fun. And I think also like you have to go through the different phases, like I think even I mean, it's still the case. I mean, things that I dealt with 10 years ago making music, like I'm still dealing with. It's like I'm still kind of going through the process of like maybe I'll lay down a version of me singing. I'm not a great singer. I mean, I do think I can like hold down for demo purposes where it's like, okay, like this is good enough, but I do not think that my versions are ever good enough to really send to any music supervisor or executive. So I think like I always, I mean, I'm self-aware about that, and I hope that people like have that honesty with their own talents to say like yes, I'm a guitarist as well, but there are times when I know that someone else will just play guitar better on something than me,
Mhm.
and I have no problem kind of like admitting, sort of like, doing whatever the song needs. It's for the sake of the song. So if it needs a different vocal, if it needs a different person to be involved, it needs a different producer, like you gotta do what's best for the song and what's best for the product. Because the last set of ears that is either approving it or, eventually paying you or whatever the case
Mhm.
is, it's like that's sort of your customer, right? Like that's your client. And like to send them like a note I use a lot, and like a lot of my songwriter friends will know this. It's like I don't like to send music that has an asterisk with it. So like I
Mhm.
don't like to send a song and say like, hey, it's like almost there, or like, I'll have a better version next week. Like to me, I'd rather like not send it than to like I always want to be confident with what I'm sending. And I've learned that from different people I've reached out to who have told me like, hey, this isn't good enough. Like, people have been brutally honest with me over the years, and like I've
Mhm.
obviously have sent not great material and have heard back from people that are like, hey, like, don't send me stuff until it's ready. And I've always really kept that in mind. And it can be harsh, and it can be, opinionated, of course, of like what is good and what's, not good. Um, but I think you definitely have to be self-aware before you're sending your music out. And like I said, I don't like the asterisk of like, oh, it's not mixed right, or like, oh, the vocals this, or oh, I'm gonna, just get it right and then send it, So that's my opinion.
I have one more thing I wanted to ask about because you
Of
said something
course.
interesting there where you were mentioning, criticism and feedback and how do you filter through those takes and understand what serves the song in the way that you want to serve the song as opposed to something that's just noise essentially.
Sure. So in my own writing process, I would say that like I feel like everyone I know sort of writes a little bit differently, but something for me
Hmm.
that I find important is like I'll loop a track and set up like a loop mode and record, and like, probably do like 15 takes of just random going through stuff, sort
Hmm.
of singing in random pitches and random lyrics, random melodies, and then kind of listen back to some of that stuff and be like, oh, okay, I thought that was interesting. That was cool. That was cool. Ultimately, like I always feel like I want the sections of the song to feel unique. So I'm very quick, and this is something like from Berkeley and like a lot of my teachers and stuff was like really instilled in me, is that like your sections should always feel unique. So like you don't want a pre-chorus that essentially is like a remix of your verse, and you don't want your chorus to feel rhythmically or, melodically with your notes and stuff to be too similar to your pre-chorus, because the songs that you love and the things that are really sticky and memorable and sort of ingrained, like you can hear the variations in the sections of the song. So I would say as I'm writing, I'm sort of filtering with that in mind a little bit of like, okay, does my verse idea on its own stand up, right? Like, is it
Hmm.
dependent upon the pre-chorus or chorus, or is it like solid on its own? Because as I'm working with like co-writers and depending on the project, sometimes I'm working with like one other person, sometimes I'm working with four people. It really isn't always a thing where it's like I'm writing the song from start to finish. So it may be that I submit a full idea and they're like, hey, we really like your pre-chorus and we
Hmm.
don't like everything else. So then someone else does the rest of it. And then you hope in the end that it all kind of fits like a puzzle. Like in one of the things I'll play today, it's like the whole song was done and they were basically sending out the song looking for new choruses.
Hmm.
So it was like, okay, the rest of the song's done. This is the topic. This is what it's about. And we're just looking for a chorus. So that was like a fun and different challenge where I didn't have to come up with like a concept. I didn't even have to
Hmm.
really think too much of the other parts because they were there. It wasn't like, oh, maybe this part will change and then maybe my chorus won't make sense. It was kind of interesting to do that, and that happens from time to time, of course, where like a blank section is given to you. And I
Right.
definitely can't stress enough that it's like if you're looking to do music commercially and you're looking to like submit your music to opportunities and like be involved with different writers and co-writers and stuff like that, like you definitely need to be open to like it's not always going to be your way. Like there are plenty of times, of course, where I'm like, oh, I thought my verse was better than what's here. And, you know, sometimes I think you just have to, okay, it's one song, it's one project. You got to just kind of keep it going. Whereas it's not my name on the project, there's probably a little bit less of like this like grabby like
Mhm.
focus. You know, I think if I was putting something out as an artist, I would I would think to myself like, okay, do I want co-writers? Like, are there people that should help me tell the stories that I'm looking to tell? Or, you know, am I looking for co-writers that are maybe just really good melody writers? And
Mhm.
maybe I have all the lyrics and I don't want opinions on melodies or lyrics. And, you know, I think it's always interesting. And of course, as a musician yourself, I'm sure you know that it's like no two songs start the same, right? It's
Yeah.
like you may just have a really good phrase or set of words or just a really cool title. And it
Mhm.
just like either all comes together, or I've had times more often than not where like I'll have a cool title, but then I don't feel like the song like lives up to the title. And I'm like, I think I need to scrap it all, but I still like the title. Still think this like
Right.
on an album would be a standout title. Or if I was flicking through Spotify or scrolling through a playlist, I like this title. So yeah.
Enjoying the video? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when new Mastrius videos are added.
What percentage of these songs do you think you are happy with? Not necessarily, commercially successful or anything, but just curious, like what percent you feel, don't go into the bin, essentially, right?
You're saying like of stuff that's like released.
Yeah. Yeah, just or not even released actually, just the whole like top of funnel essentially, right?
I mean, to be very honest with you, I feel like I've always kept that childlike wonder of like I only want to create stuff that I would listen to. You know, I
Hmm.
think I have always kept that throughout the years. I don't know. I'd say if not all, pretty close to all. I mean, of
Nice.
course, looking back over the years, there's definitely songs where I'm like, yeah, that's not great, or I shouldn't have
Yeah.
sent that, or you know, things like that. But I think it's important to hear the progression. It's important to hear, here's what I was doing 5 years ago, here's what I'm doing now. I would say something that is like more interesting in like I would say pandemic onward for me. So like I guess
Hmm.
2020, 2021 is that like I did a lot more co-writes with a lot of different people. I think that there was a time when I was kind of working with the same, probably 5 to 6 writers pretty frequently. Either it was like a combination of two of them or three of them, or like all of us at once. You know, when our schedules permitted and when we could do it. But I think like the pandemic really opened up just a lot of, you know, just writing with brand new people. And I think in that process, you learn like who you really gel with.
Hmm.
As someone who like I think I'm stronger at melodies than I am at lyrics. I do say that like I love working with people that are like wordsmiths, that are like really into the craft of lyrics, really into the story, and really just have like a different set of skills. You know, like I think if I was to get into a room or a virtual room like this with someone who also is like really into melodies, I don't know if we'd have like as a product to come out at the end of it like the best the best overall product. Because I mean there's a lot of elements to songs, right? I mean there's like the music element, right? Like is it acoustic instruments, is it digital instruments, right? And then you have your
Hmm.
lyrics, your melodies, your vocal performance, then there's a mix, then there's a master. So it's like there's a
Yep.
lot of steps to music, and a lot of like, you know, things kind of like a lot of things have to really be working at the same time at the right speed for things to sort of just work and to be great. So
Right. Cool. Well, I'm excited to hear and see some of these examples. Especially now we're talking a little bit more about melody and see how you start to put that on top of the harmony that's in some of these tracks.
definitely. So I guess like, should I share my screen or just share the audio here? What's the easiest?
I mean, either way should work.
Either way, okay. If I
Yeah,
share, so it would be okay. So screen, and then listening to some podcasts, and then new share computer audio. And let
perfect.
me just quickly play something here just to see if this works. Are you able to hear this?
Yep.
That comes out. Okay, great. So this one is a song called Ready for Anything. So this is from 2018. So this is a pretty old one.
Hmm.
And I'll give like a slight background, I guess, on each of these. So there's a production
Awesome.
team that I've done some work with that's in New Jersey called Catalyst, and
Hmm.
they've worked with a lot of, you know, up and coming, but a lot of established artists as well. They've also done mix work for like Kanye West and Ariana Grande and all the big names. And I interned for them for a bit, and Ken is a mentor to me and has been a great mentor to me throughout the years, and has always been a great soundboard for advice and for shooting off, you know, just brainstorming and picking apart. And he and his team, they at the time, and of course I'm not sure if like, this is exactly what they're doing now, but at the time they were just making a bunch of instrumentals and sending them to different top liners like myself to get songs. And some of them were pitching for like TV shows and movies, and some of them were
Hmm.
also pitching for artists. So this is a track that they sent over, and me and four other people worked on this at a Panera in our area. Like we literally just all had headphones on and we're at a Panera. So it's a funny backstory to eventually see where it went. So let me play my version. So the four of us were writing lyrics and melodies over this track that was sent to us. So that was
Hmm.
the first step, is like, hey, like let's write something cool to this. I of course like record and can lay down like some sort of vocal. So I made a rough demo. We knew that this would eventually be for a female vocalist. So the idea
Hmm.
was to just get my version and then eventually to hire a great demo singer, because we knew that we couldn't show Ken my version. Ken is the guy from Catalyst, and we knew that my voice wasn't going to cut it immediately. But we were like, all right, let's just get the idea down, because you
Hmm.
know, as easy it is to say like let's get a demo singer, it's like you need to show the demo singer what you want them to demo sing. So it's like I think people
Right.
sometimes forget that step of like, you know, you sort of have to like have a version that's presentable.
Hmm.
So let me just make sure this is the right one. That's not the right one. So this is it right here. So this is me singing, and you'll hear eventually my friend Rosie, who did the demo, and then you'll hear the one that we worked on with Ken. So you'll hear three versions of the same song, and I'll play like maybe like a minute of each of them just so you can get the vibe.
Perfect.
We were only kids catching comets in the backyard, rolling like kings and queens of the courtyard, unafraid, treasuring our mistakes. Cause we were pioneers, following our own star, banging like a drum to the rhythm of our own hearts. Nowadays we only play it safe. Carefree, back before we were scared, when we could go anywhere and we could do anything. We are ready for anything. Can we break away from this dancing? We could take our chances. Ready for anything. We are ready for anything. Nothing stays the same.
All right, so you get it to some degree. It's positive, uplifting, ready for
Hmm.
anything. So when we started like getting a female vocalist, we were like, all right, your version is too low. Like we need to bring the track up. So this version we pitched the instrumental from Ken up. So you're
Okay.
gonna tell that the drums are gonna sound thin, and it's gonna sound, the track will sound a little chipmunked. And then eventually you'll hear the progression of that. So it's my friend Rosie.
We were only kids catching comets in the backyard, rolling like kings and queens of the courtyard. Unafraid, we cherished our mistakes. We were pioneers, following our own star, banging like a drum to the rhythm of our own hearts. Nowadays, we only play it safe. Carefree, back before we were scared, when we could go anywhere, when we could do anything. We were ready for anything. Can we break away from this dance and take another chance? Yeah, ready for anything. We are ready for anything. Nothing stays the same.
All right, version 2.0.
What did
And
you change
so
the key to, or was it just an octave higher?
Yes. Yes. At least up like a fourth or something. Yeah.
Okay.
So the track went up. So we sent that to Ken and we were like, hey, we think we have something cool to one of your tracks. We had to pitch it up, unless, because the whole thing with like pitching up an instrumental the right way is a lot of effort. Because they would have to like go into the individual tracks and pitch up. And there's a lot of guitars in this track and stuff, which would be a lot of effort to do. So Ken liked it enough, and we went down to his studio in New Jersey, and he reworked the track, and we rewrote like a pretty good chunk of it. So now you'll hear like the glossed, polished. There is another version of it that I didn't have on hand, but this is like the one that I have that was as far along as it was. So, all right, let's check that one out.
We were only kids catching comets in the backyard, rolling like kings and queens of the courtyard. Unafraid, we'd wear all our mistakes. Bloody arms, busted legs. We were pioneers, following our own star, bang like a drum, pounding rhythms of our young hearts. Nowadays, we always play it safe. Away from harm, we were carefree, back before we were scared. We were royalty on our own streets. We controlled everything. We were ready for anything. Break away and just dance free. They would say we were crazy, living inside a dream. We are ready for anything. Oh, oh, we're ready. Oh, oh, ready for anything. Oh, oh, we're ready. Oh, oh, ready for anything. Nothing stays the same. Everyone.
So hopefully you can tell, I mean, it's like progressively gotten better from my version of it to eventually working with Ken, and we added a whole different section after the chorus, and the music is pitched up properly. So I'll quickly just play the beginning of the one with the pitched up piano, which was, hold on, my bad, this one. So it sounds glitchy. It's like glitchy and a little funny, and Ken repitched it. So it's definitely smoother, definitely cleaner. But yeah, so this is one that had some different iterations, and we eventually got right. So yeah,
That's awesome.
I'll play. Yeah.
Yeah, just a question too. Because it sounds like, you have some vivid memories working in the Panera and then going into the studio eventually as well. What were some of the biggest learnings from you in that, like building out that song and that process and the progress that you made from start to
Sure.
finish?
Sure. I would say that for this one in particular, this was like, this was an experience where it was a slow process, which sometimes I do not enjoy, of like, we wrote the song. It took us a few weeks to coordinate the demo singer, and then it took us a few weeks to like eventually figure out going down to work with Ken, and then it took him a few more weeks to like send us a version. So I feel like patience is like one of the big things that I've had to like get really good at throughout the process here, is that, you know, you can like work on your songs and work on your craft and work on, you know, what's in your control. But when you're collaborating and kind of relying on different people and different skill sets, and you know, you always just have to be mindful of like other people's schedules. And like to you, this may be super important. Like for all of us, we were like, wow, like we have a song with Ken Lewis, like this is exciting. Like we were so stoked on it. And we were like, you know, insecure about it because we're like, it's kind of taking a while to like get the stars to align on this. But then we did it. And we're like, okay, we went down to work with him. And like, does he still like the song? I think there's always like the self-doubt. I think like because it's the kind of thing where it's not like someone like one of the writers, it's like not one of our songs in terms of like it's not our artist song, where to us it's like, oh man, we just put like a lot of effort into this, like what if it doesn't go anywhere, or what if he doesn't like it, and stuff like that. So I think the thing that for anyone, no matter what level of music you're in or aspiring to, I think it's, you know, your patience has to be real, because it's like if you are giving up quickly or you just don't really have like the patience for certain situations, it can just sort of backfire on you. Like if you make decisions too quickly, we're like, no, I don't like that, or no, I don't want to do that, or oh, like you sort of have to see through some of that. And just like I mean, a big piece of advice I think that I wish was given to me sooner is that like if you're working on a bunch of songs or a bunch of things at once, you kind of can't like babysit all of them at the same time. So like I think I always try on my side, and I like suggest for other people, like always be working on something because it will sort of take your mind from like the nervous energy of like what happens to this one song, you know, when you're working on 3 other songs a month, or whatever your pace is. You know, people definitely work in different paces, and there have been times in life when I've like really been cranking on songs, and then other times when I'm not working on as many songs, but maybe the quality is higher, right? Like it's definitely not a quantity over quality game sometimes. But I would say that like just being patient, and if you're working on different things, to kind of like put your attention and your focus and your passion and love into what you're working on in the moment. Because it's like you can't control, like for instance, like I was relying on other co-writers, a demo singer, Ken Lewis's team. Like I was relying on a lot of people for this one song that it felt like, you know, like what can I do to like speed up the process here? So I think like each of these songs has like a different flavor of like patience attached to it. So that's like a big overarching thing, just on like a more holistic note of just like you just gotta just always be moving. You can't really stand still. You can't just harp on like one thing. You just sort of gotta always move.
Awesome.
Yes. I'll play some other stuff for you. So this is the one I was talking to you about. So this is almost 10 years old here. So this is the one where I mentioned that they were just looking for a chorus. So the rest
Right.
of the song was done. So this is a track I worked on for an artist named Samantha J, who was on Sony Columbia. So this was a big door opener for me in terms of like, hey, this is my first major label artist, and this is my first like shot at something like this. And yeah, a friend of mine had the opportunity. He was next in line to her manager, so there wasn't as many gatekeepers for this. It was kind of like one person to ahead of us to check out the song, which was nice. It wasn't this bigger thing. And they had the title "Bad Like Yeah," which is like a Jamaican phrase, or you know, yeah is in that world. And yeah, I'll play what we sent for the chorus. And to be very honest, we were expecting like, okay, maybe they'll like some of the melodies and just like some of the vibe of it, but I would say they kept, I think, all of it as is that she ended up singing, which was cool. And we got to work with her in the studio here in Boston. And so this one, like a different, I would say like a different set of like experiences and learning from it. This song, I think, was like one of the fastest in terms of like, here's the idea, here's the finished product and music video and marketing, promote. Like this kind of moved like very quickly, which was great for me. Like I said, I'm sort of always used to the like having to like either chase things or kind of like work on something for a while, but this one just kind of came together quickly, which like there's only one version of a demo because it's like we made one version of a demo. It wasn't like,
Right.
hey, can you rework this or can you fix this? Because I'm used to that too, right? Where it's like, oh, it's almost there, it's not quite right. So I'll play the song and you can hear both versions. Yeah.
Cool.
Samantha J. Oh, oh, oh. See it, yeah. Why you have my heart a bubble like a fizzy soda? Have me all a DJ like a Didi Donia. You a star boy, that's why you me feature. You wanna add it, but come be me teacher. Boy, it dep and repeat. If love's so nice, you see it. Ha, ha, can't even breathe. Nobody can go round, you're gonna leave. I want you now. Them not bad like you. Nobody doing bad like you. Want you now. Them not bad like you. Nobody can bad like you. Want you now. Them not bad like you. Nobody doing bad like you. I want you now. Them not bad like you now.
Here's me.
And I know I shouldn't, but I gotta have you. Love the bad things you do, I wanna do them too. And I know I shouldn't, but I gotta have you. And I wanna be bad like you.
Oh na na na. Yeah.
So that was it, just just that little part. And here's her version, which is like mostly the same. I think there may be a couple words that she changed on the spot, but I'll fast forward a little bit.
Them not bad like you. Nobody doing bad like you. I want you now. Now. Them not bad like you. Yeah, I know I shouldn't, but I gotta have you. I love all them things you do. I want fit to them too. Yeah, I know I shouldn't, but I gotta have you. No one for me. I wanna be bad like you. Oh na na na. You have me a
So pretty close, it was definitely not a whole lot changed there. And I will say that this was also, to be very honest with you, as this was one of my like earlier placements, I feel like this was a big confidence booster at the time, where I was like, okay, I'm sort of used to working on stuff that like slowly goes from A to Z. And this was very fast, which was great. Like after we submitted the demo, within a few weeks, they're like, hey, we like it, cool. And then like a week later, they were like, hey, we're at the studio tomorrow if you guys want to come by and like be there when we record. So I would say that the speed of this was great. Like I have only good memories and only good like vibes from this. In the end, there are like a lot of writers on the song. So again, that is something to, like different people worked on the verse to my knowledge, and like different people worked on like maybe the pre-chorus. And this was a fun experience. And, there have been times when I've definitely grinded like 10 plus hours on songs and reworked something and redid it. And then a month later, mess with it again. Like this was just sort of like, my friend and I were working on this, and within like maybe a few hours, we're like, hey, this is pretty cool. Like, let's just lay this down and send it. Because the timeline was fast, they were like, hey, we need this within a few days. And I think a bunch of people were also being sent the same track. I sometimes do enjoy like the deadline aspect, where it's like, hey, let's get something quick. It sort of just moves everything faster sometimes. Like if the artist and the project is moving forward, then it's sort of in your favor, where like they're not going to move slowly if they need a song. Because Samantha J was having like a bunch of success at the time with like a cover song that she did that was like on the radio and getting a lot of traction. And I think they were looking for like more singles to keep putting out quickly because of like the unexpected success of the cover song that she put out right before that. So it moved quickly, and yeah, super, super good stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, and did you find it to be a different experience, like just working on the the chorus, right? And just having to write like one or two hooks versus having to write, you know,
the whole thing.
the whole thing, right? Did you find that experience somewhat liberating as well, or?
Yeah, like you know what it is? I think because of the speed of it and also like the brevity of the part, it felt like a blur, sort of. It was like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Like you have one afternoon and you have to send this, and like this is what it
Mhm.
is. I think a lot of times, like when you have the endless like if you're just working on songs and you don't always have like a goal or a deadline or like a project that you're submitting to, I think sometimes it's just so easy to tinker forever. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
guilty of it too. I mean, I have dozens and dozens of songs that like I like, oh, I like this pre-chorus, but I don't have the
Right.
rest of the song. And you're like, what do I do with it? And it just sort of sits there, right? It's just on your hard drive. It's just sitting there. I
Mhm.
think any musician can relate to that. But I think sometimes when someone or a company, whoever it is like, hey, here's a song, here's a track, right? Like we love this track. We need something to it in 2 days. I think when you have those like bookends, it kind of just invigorates the whole flow, right? Of like, all right, the
Right.
pressure's on. I can't like dilly dally and be in my own space with this. I can't overthink every rhyme, every word, and the thing that's, of course, with artists and with projects like this is that because this isn't like this was for an artist, it's like they of course like will take it into their own hands and kind of run with it. Now when I'm
Mhm.
working on stuff for sync, like your version that you deliver, like that is the version. It's not that it's like they're going to go hire someone else. It's like when they take your song to use it for something, it's like it ends there. So maybe it'd be good for me to show an example of something like that, because like with something like the one I just played, it's like of course it's landing at the artist. Now they're going to go to the studio to make their version. When you're working with like any sync companies or ad agencies and companies like that, like you're delivering the final product. So I think you always have to kind of keep that in mind. Like if I did something imperfect in a demo that's going to an artist, in your head, you're like, oh, well, the artist is going to do it and like rock it and make it great. But with submitting stuff for sync, it's like, whoever you hire to sing, or if it's you, like I work with sometimes like demo singers are also like of course amazing writers, and you work with them too for projects, and like you have to make
Mhm.
sure their version is great because that's what you're submitting. So any words that feel funny or any timing that feels funny, you gotta be quick and sort of think of it on the spot. This one here, I'll share this one because this is kind of like a very recent one. So this one, yeah, this is like within the past few months. So this was just an idea for a hook where we had a title
Mhm.
that was Get Out My Way. And I had an idea for a chorus. And then my friend Annalise, who I work with on a bunch of projects, she took it further. And then eventually we changed the key and tempo and took it further. So this is another 3-stepper. So here's this part of it. Again, just apologizing for my voice in advance, but just got to get the job done.
I was.
Apologies. I think it's this one. Sorry. Different track.
Get out my way, don't hold me back. Get out my way, I'm ready to attack. Get out my way, no, no, because I'm here to stay. No, I'm not the best. No, you, get on my back. No, you, better get out of my way. No, you, get on my back. No, you, better get out of my way.
Chorus rocking a lot of falsetto there, trying to sing it high to keep in mind like a big female vocal. So this is what my friend Annalise did to it. The track's a little bit different.
No, you can't hold me back. You can't hold me back. No, you can't hold me back, back. Get out my way. No holding me back. Get out my way. I'm ready to attack. Get out my
that's what we sent to the sync company, just to like, hey, here's an idea, which you don't always have like the pleasure of that to say like, hey, do you like this enough for us to keep going? I think that sounds pretty good. And then we got the approval, so now we sped it up, changed the track a little bit, and she sang it in more of like a full voice. Like the other one was like a few takes, you know, we just did it on Zoom. So this one is like a more fleshed out version 3. I'll skip forward a little bit because a couple of different parts. The second verse is like a little, sorry, the second chorus is a little bit different. So I'm just gonna play a part of that. So definitely a different performance, sped up. But as you can tell, like, I think the thing that's important, like with all of these demos, and like I'll play another one if I have the time here, is that like the idea is the idea, right? Like your initial concept, your initial melody, your initial, you know, artistic expression is valid, right? And I think that it changes once you hear different voices on it and you work with different people that can help bring it to life. And I can't stress enough that, of course, like this is my experience making music and doing what I do. Like this whole thing is different for different people. Like Annalise is an amazing singer. You know, like I've worked on her artist project as well. You know, she's like getting there as a writer as well with me and the people that I work with. So it's like you always have to kind of think like if Annalise wrote fully, she's already a great singer. So like she has like that one step. And I think that like her and my friend Mark, so it's the 3 of us that worked on this. And I think like we all have different strengths when it comes to putting songs together for sync, where it's like Mark's like a great producer and he's helping with the tracks and involved in the lyrics and melodies, but you know, definitely shines as a producer in the project. Whereas like, you know, there are people that do like 2 of the 3 things, or they do all of them. So I think, you know, as someone like myself who is definitely just more into like the melodies and the lyrics, I've always had to have people like Mark or Annalise, or, you know, I work with a lot of different people. So I think like I've always had to like be around different people to get the job done. And I think that that's the thing, is like, you just have to get the job done, whether it's an iPhone memo, which like that first thing that I had was, and then you eventually do another demo and then your third version, you know, it's like whatever it takes. I don't think there's a shortcut or like a fast way to do any of this stuff. I think it just kind of like is what it is. I'll play one more. I think we have a few minutes.
Yeah,
here.
if you can go over past 5, yeah, totally.
Cool.
Let's do it.
Cool. Is there a title here that excites you?
Oh, I don't see him anymore. So
I'm sorry. I thought my screen was shared. I'm sorry.
no, it's all good.
I'll tell you 3 titles and see what you like.
Okay, deal.
I have one called Hold Your Own Hand. That's one. Invisible. And then I have No Money, No Problems.
Ooh.
All different genres.
Let's go No Money, No Problems. It sounds like a
Perfect.
bluesy title, so I'm in.
Oh, you're in for a treat. So this one was just a cool title that I liked, that my friend Mark and I were like writing some lyrics and melodies to, and we found a track just to write over and kind of came up with this. And this version is me singing. The eventual version that we're using like to pitch into demo is a bit slower and smoother. So this will go from like kind of aggressive and in your face to like
Mhm.
more chill and, you know, a little bit easier to listen to. So this is my version of it. So I'll play this for you. And this was meant to be a hip hop hook. We had
Mhm.
we had like a pretty wide opportunity with different like hip hop artists that just needed hooks. So we're like, all right,
Awesome.
cool. Let's just write titles and short parts. And this was one of them.
Back in the day, I remember when I had no money, no problems. And now I know that more money won't solve them. Yeah, I used to pray, getting paper, getting paid, no money, no problems. No money, no problems.
So quick to the point, you know, and then we reworked it with a friend of ours, switched it up a bit, and this is where we ended with it.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Let's go. When I had no money, I had no problems. Yeah. No. And now I know that more money won't solve them. Okay. I used to pray, all the money in the fame. When I had no money, I had no problems. No money, no problems.
So definitely different. And again, this was one where like we sent our version to our friends and he took it in a different
Mhm.
lane and the track was different and the vibe and it's less in your face. I felt like mine was like a little, I don't harsh isn't the word, but just like more in your face and like it was faster, right? It was a little bit faster. The key
Mhm.
was a little higher. I like the newer version. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes I'm definitely like, I think my first version was, you know, just had like a magic thing to it. But this one felt good. I was like, it felt refreshing. I was like, all right, cool. The writing is here, and this just sounds like a more put together, more polished version.
Yeah, it's a interesting evolution, right? Because we heard one where you went from, a little mellower to like a little
Yes.
more aggressive, and this one goes a little more aggressive to like, yeah, much mellower, a little, I don't know what you call that, ragtime-ish kind of tack piano sound to like
Yeah, it's
little ska trumpet in there, and you're doing R&B hip hop kind of thing. It's
yeah, and
super
that
fun.
and that was the goal. And like I said, there was like this time when early pandemic, like
Mhm.
because of more co-writing happening online, I feel like there were more just like just opportunities in different genres, and I was just getting briefs from different
Mhm.
people in different companies where I was like, all right, like I'll take a stab. Like to be honest with you, that was my one of my first stabs at like that style or that genre. Like to me, it was a little foreign to be like, hey, like just write this one fragment and
Mhm.
then we'll do everything after. Whereas with the Samantha J song, it was like, here's everything, write a chorus. You know, like for this, it's like um your title and your hook sort of dictates eventually what the rapper would do. Right. So it's hard to
Right.
like, you have to come up with something that feels unique enough where, you know, if we just wrote a song that was like, you know, like to the sky or something, it might feel generic where the rapper would look at the track and be like, you know, I don't know, like I don't think that this feels creative or cool enough.
Mhm.
So I think like knowing where the bar is at, like, you know, being, and this is like outside of writing and stuff, like you should always like keep your ears and eyes out there just for, you know, just for the sake of like, hey, this is if this is the art of songwriting and this is 2024, you should have a pulse on what's happening in music. And whether that means like checking different playlists on Spotify every week, you know, I think you should always kind of you should be in tune with the music industry because I think if you live too much in your own little vacuum, it's hard to just like
Mhm.
emerge because then you run into the risk of like no one being interested in the stuff you're doing if your music doesn't feel like it can kind of blend into what's happening. And of course, I'm saying this from like a if you're looking to make commercial music, work with different artists, work with different sync companies, you know, like sometimes for people like that isn't the goal. Sometimes it's like they just want to make the music that they like and that's all. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, you know, whatever your genre is, like try and keep apprised of like what's going on there.
Yeah, what's in
Um,
line with that. I'll play one more if that's cool with you.
yeah, let's
Cool.
do it.
This one's a little different, so I feel like this would be interesting because this is one where we had a demo that was myself, and then the
Uh-huh.
company wanted a female vocal on it a year later. So
Cool.
it was like, oh, I forgot about the song because no one liked it, and then now we want a female vocal and change the key. Cool, you know. So and that's how random this stuff is. It's like, okay, a year later. All right, so here is my version. It's the song's called Invisible.
In the haze of a distant summer dream, I can still feel the heat from the way that you used to look at me. But I can't forget, and you don't remember. All that's left are ashes and embers. No going back to the way it used to be. 'Cause I feel so invisible, invisible, invisible. I feel so invisible. Oh, oh, oh. I feel so invisible, invisible, invisible. I feel so invisible. Oh, oh, oh. It's funny how every feeling fades away.
That was my version from a while ago. And then, like I said, they wanted a female vocal on it. So we pitched the track up and got a friend, and here's what it eventually sounded like.
Cool.
Pitched up, as you can hear immediately.
Yep.
In the haze of a distant summer dream, I can still feel the heat from the way that you used to look at me. But I can't forget, and you don't remember. All that's left are ashes and embers. No going back to the way it used to be. I feel so invisible, invisible, invisible. I feel so invisible. I feel so invisible, invisible, invisible. I feel so invisible. It's funny how every
So yeah.
That's it's similar, but it's very different.
Yeah, and I think that,
Yeah.
you know, it's like when you're pushing stuff to companies and artists and different things, you sort of have to be flexible with like,
Right.
yeah, you want this and you need it in 2 days. Yeah, I can make it happen.
Yeah.
And something that I'm looking forward to in the mentor series and, you know, to connect with everyone here is like, I want to provide also like the resources for like, how do you do this? How do you take an idea and how are you finding the next set of people to like help put this
Right.
together? You know, so if you're a great writer, but you don't want to sing your own demos or you don't want to collaborate, or if you just don't have the people in your network, like because I grew up like in an area where like I had a lot of like people around me, you know, I was doing a lot of in-person sessions and kind of that was
Right.
how like I grew up making music. But I think like the tables, like everything is so different now where it's like if you're somewhere in the US and you're kind of on your own island, it's not impossible to do it, of course, but I think sometimes there is just like more effort involved and like, you know, like through the mentor series, I hope to be able to help people to like, how do you source people to do this, right? Like, and whether that's like opportunities that you need to like invest in, of course, like if do you have to hire demo singers? Can you find demo singers for free? Right. It's like you don't always have to like spend money to make everything happen, of course. Like, you know, I think like how to be creative to get the songs in the right place is definitely, I think, a big part of being a musician and being a songwriter in this, you know, current state of things. So I hope in the series, and I think it will come up organically, but like I hope I can help provide the resources and how to navigate, like what do I do if I have this idea, but I don't know who to send it to, and I don't know who to sing on it, and I don't, because I have been there
Right.
where it's like you can feel like a mountain where it's like I have these songs and like what do I do, and like I don't like my voice, and I don't, so it's like
Mhm.
it's definitely a wall, and I think it can be easy to kind of give up at that step and to say, well, I don't know, maybe music just isn't my thing, or maybe it's just not in the cards for me, right? Like it's really easy to give up. So I think I really hope in this series that as a mentor I can kind of help people figure out the dots here, right? Like, and some people may need more connecting of dots than others. Like I said, like for me, it's always been this multi-network, like singers and producers. Like I've kind of had to like always be that like socially outgoing like person. And if that's not your thing, it's not the end of the world and it's not impossible. You just kind of have to like strategize and brainstorm a little of what to do. So yeah, I'm
Right.
excited. Yeah, I'm excited for the series. I'm excited to see where everyone's at, where everyone's, skills are at and what they're sort of working on and what they're looking to do. And, I hope, yeah, looking
Yeah, and
forward.
if you enjoyed this today, there's still room in Vinny's group coming up here on in Mastrius. So feel free to check out the site, sign up, and you'll be able to lean on Vinny. You'll be able to lean on myself, as the navigator, and everyone else in your group too. We're building a community here so that you don't have to connect the dots alone, whether you live in New York City or like myself in the middle of nowhere in Colorado. uh you don't have to be alone on this.
Yeah, it's a team effort, and there's a lot of like-minded people out there. You just have to figure out where they are, whether they're
Yep.
online somewhere or there's different resources and how to connect. And it's not impossible. It's just you just gotta have the right strategy and like the right approach to it. And you have to set your own goals, and just kind of work at them every week and every month. So we'll get there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Vinny. This was been super fun. Looking forward to working with you more. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hi again, YouTube. Or goodbye, YouTube, I guess. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, night, afternoon, morning, whatever time it may be there.
Perfect. Yeah, looking forward to see anyone there. Please sign up, get involved. I'm looking forward to being part of the Mastrius community. And I'll see you all in a month from now, from when this is being recorded. But if you're watching it later, hope you find this helpful and educational and fun, and work on your own songs with me as well here. So yeah, see you soon.
See you soon.